Africans would rather charter a boat, in quotes, cross the Mediterranean to go to Europe to seek for a better life, whether they lose lives or not. Running away from either war, genocide, whatever it is.
It's mostly poverty, but...
Yeah.
Let me actually let you ask that question about how Africans keep coming back, because I think you're the one who can phrase it right.
So I had sent Ali, it was in the midst of trying to get something to discuss for the show. And, I just say, so I sent him, I said, we can also talk about how rinse, repeat cycle has us being mistreated. So, when most of the people like in Ruth who've got, and Omosh, because Omosh has got another powerful washing machine. The rinse, repeat cycle.
What's the rinse and repeat cycle?
So the rinse, repeat cycle is this. So uko na nguo ni chafu, una rinse, then you repeat. Una rinse, una repeat. So ideally, we hear stories, and we've had stories. Africans, depending, we've had, when they were crossing the Mediterranean going to Greece, Italy, Spain, whatever.
Yeah.
We've heard of stories of Africans trying to immigrate into other countries. We've heard of stories of immigrants, African immigrants, trying to get into Germany, trying to get into, because they're, whatever they're running away from, they're trying to get. So there's a lot of hoopla. There's a lot of noise made in terms of, okay, these guys, these European countries are not accepting. They're not allowing, unless you do something fantastic like I think the Cameroonian individual who scaled the walls like Spider-Man to save a
the
child.
baby, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He got citizenship or he got recognition or whatever.
That was in France, right?
Yeah,
That was in France.
Yeah.
So, looking for work or whatever. And we've seen stories of guys, sleeping outside under tents or whatever. But Africans would rather charter a boat, in quotes, cross the Mediterranean to go to Europe to seek for a better life, whether they lose lives or not. Running away from either war, genocide, whatever it is.
It's mostly poverty, but...
Yeah. But now on the flip side, here we have, as the media reported it, some mainstream media channels reported as, middle class, white people with blue eyes or whatever. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Syria. This is not, any African continent or whatever. And they were trying... it's like they were trying to avoid using certain words, but no matter what they were saying, they still came out as racist, because they're like, this is Ukraine, this is not any other country.
It's okay for this to happen to Africans.
For Africans,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Or Middle Eastern.
Or Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
But now, again, we as Africans were like, we still, so we have complained. We complained. Now the powers that be in Ukraine have said, what, any African trying to leave or whatever, can call this number or whatever. Here's a problem also. Where are the embassies of these individuals who are having problems? Because all we're hearing about are African immigrants. We haven't heard about US citizens, British, whatever it is. I'm sure probably the embassies, America told guys, what, I think you guys need
Bounce.
to chomoka, bounce.
Yeah.
But other embassies, we haven't had anything negative about them. Here we are hearing, where's the Nigerian embassy when when their citizens are trying to leave, if it's Kenyan, if it's like whatever African or whichever African was stranded over there, where were the embassies? One, to let them know, guys, listen, hapa kimeumana, fanyeni hivi, kujeni hapa, we'll sort you guys out, mtoke. Where were the embassies of those African countries? Two, we ourselves always seem to always go back. It doesn't matter, it's like tumezoea kuchapwa. You know how our mothers used to beat us? Then you go back and do the same madhogo than me. So I wanted to bring this back. This rinse, repeat. At what point in time are we going to get fed up and decide, you know what, we're going to stay in our own countries? We don't need to go out there and get persecuted. We don't need to go out there to get tossed around, being hoisted, being given racial abuse or whatever. When will that happen?
Now, I want to start with that part of when will that happen or when will people stop. And the first thing that I want to say, anyone who goes to seek bread for their family, I have nothing but respect for them.
True.
And you cannot blame them.
Yeah.
You cannot blame them because these are people who probably, sought, employment within their own countries. They're not able to find it. That's why I never understand, when people come up with this thing, ati kama mnajua watu wameuliwa Saudi Arabia, why are you going? And the people who are asking have never stopped to ask. The question should be, why is it that someone would risk their life? Forget about even Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of legit jobs people go to do. There's some situations where people get...
We've had those discussions.
Yes, there's some situations where people get mistreated.
Apart
But
from
then
that,
when I say
idiot.
risk your life, I mean like go into a crowded boat, which you have a lot of Africans doing that. Why would someone... The question should never be,
Why are you
how come
doing
why are
that?
you doing that?
Yeah.
It should be, how come, people are willing to risk their lives, like to do this? And that answer does not lie with the people who are risking their lives, because these people who are risking their lives, nobody
best they know.
nobody of normal thinking would just want to live their life, risk a boat just to go and have a good time on the other side. They must have been in very dire circumstances, where they came from, be it war, be it famine, be it just poverty. Poverty can be very intense, and it can be, it can slap you in so many different ways. And that's the reason why I would start by never judging, the people who actually go out and do that. And I think for as long as there's an economic imbalance, between African countries and these other countries, that movement will always exist. Imagine if Kenya bordered the United States. People would be scaling the walls, we talk about Mexicans, but if Kenya was bordering United States, trust me, people would be scaling the walls to come here and work. So we can't blame for that. Now, as far as the embassies are concerned, I'm going to bring back a topic that's not, necessarily very sexy or people don't want to hear. And that's the issue of just diaspora representation. African embassies, the Kenyan embassy in particular, are still operating on I believe, a post-independence blueprint, whereby at that time, there was not too many Kenyans who were here in the US. And the few Kenyans who are here were people who are coming temporarily, either for school or maybe for certain projects, and then they go back. So these embassies were never tooled to deal with Kenyans who are living here. And they've never, over time, as Kenyans started moving in, they never properly adjusted. And this is right with most other African embassies. So when situations like this happen, I don't think, there might be nice guys who are working in the embassy, good people who love Kenyans and wear Kenyan flags, but there's just no protocol or process or even funding of doing this. Because, for example, if you say that your war is going down in Ukraine, want to evacuate Kenyans. First of all, I don't even know if there's a Kenyan embassy in Ukraine, and I could be stand corrected. I know there's one in Moscow. So typically, whenever there's an embassy in the neighboring country, like for example, we don't have a Kenyan embassy in Mexico, but the U.S. embassy here in D.C. handles, situations in Mexico. So I don't believe there's a Kenyan embassy in Ukraine. And if it is, it must be very new. I'm not very sure. Don't quote me. If there's one, somebody please tell me in the comments. So it's probably the embassy in Moscow that should be handling that situation. Now, as an embassy, if you don't have, like the funding, or you don't have the protocol, the processes and procedures of what to do, then all you have to do is look to Nairobi. Look to what either the Minister of Foreign Affairs is saying or what the Permanent Secretary is saying. And a lot of times you find very empty, very empty and shallow comments coming on social media profiles be careful, stay safe, nini. But there's nothing tangible that a Kenyan who is in a war zone trying to go out can look and see, this is where I can get assistance. And you see, even Africans, whenever shit goes down in a lot of these countries, their mind is not even at the embassy. That's how bad things are. They're not looking up to the embassy. They're not looking up to their government for assistance. So I think, there's a long-term problem that needs a long-term solution to be solved. Almost fire.
Yeah, Ali, I think you're right about this. And, it's interesting that you've even gone to the point where you're talking about war. But we have this same issue all the time with deaths here in the diaspora. Plain outright. Embassy does not get involved in any way, form, or shape. The most that they will do is help with trying to get
emergency travel documents
if that's needed.
Yeah.
Or if there's something that they need to help with the process of what's the right word that right word you use when you're shipping a body?
Shipping a body.
What our does?
Kusafirisha.
No.
No.
Anyway, you guys will get it. But basically, we already see how that's happening. So if that's the process, or you already know that there is no response from them that way, when something goes down, they're the last people, like you said. You're not going to go to the embassy, or you're not going to try to go to the embassy. But there's a possibility that they might even have a bunker where you could chill and let those bombs get dropped short of atomic. You might be safe. And they may be able to accommodate, and they have food and all that good stuff. But we would never know because we don't go there, and then that information is also not passed. And then even if it's there, they're keeping it to, it's embassy staff and nini. But remember, the embassy is our soil, or soil of the country that they do represent, which means it's home. Anybody who is Kenyan should be facilitated there with no questions asked, no nini, no ati, I don't know, did you make an appointment? It's a time of war, whatever. If you guys are, pulling embassy staff out, then you also need to be thinking about how you're going to pull out citizens of the country, and you should be making, some sort of, have some sort of communication channel that's out there. Whether it's going to be, even if you put it in your Twitter handle, hypothetically, whatever it is, and say, chaps, if you can make your way to the embassy, we got you. Or tukutane Wilson Airport, or whatever the case may be, because we have a plane that's at this time and it's pulling people out. And it's interesting that our embassy seemingly doesn't seem to do that, but the U.S. embassy or the U.S. will pull out their citizens in
very fast
in countries that are war-torn. In situations where they tell Damas, okay, look, it's not safe. We have flights that are leaving, and if you can make your way to the airport, we have flights between this time, and we're gonna pull people out. Even if it means they're gonna pull you out and take you next door, they're still gonna pull you out.
Yeah,
and they'll do whatever they can to make sure they get every single last person. And you're right in saying that our countries seem not to. They don't. It's not like the money is not there per se, but it's something that they would never ever budget for, because they're like, war is not going to happen, or there's not going to be a situation where our citizens on the ground need to be pulled out. COVID was a perfect example of prior to lockdowns, where everybody was scrambling. Remember the Kenyans who were stranded in China. Guys were stranded, I don't know where Kenya KQ had to go and get guys. So by now we should know. Emergency preparedness is not only for ati they are terrorists. We've gone past that. We've gone to pandemics. We've gone to wars, and it could be, even past, hostage. It could be anything.
Could be anything.
Something has gone down in that city. Hakuna maji. Okay, we need to move guys out. Tunadu.